Well, Flannery is one of the letter's signatories, who said leaders had a moral responsibility to consider emissions from fossil fuels even when they are exported. So will we be punished for exporting our coal overseas, which exports reach $110 billion this financial year? But Flannery says the minister must heed the advice of the country's leading scientists. Well, what about international scientists? Would Dr. John R Christie, a climatologist from Alabama, be a leading scientist? Quote, he says, I've often heard that there's a consensus of thousands of scientists on the global warming issue and that human beings are causing catastrophic change to the climate system. Well, I am one scientist, he said, and there are many who think that is not true. Unquote. Would Dr. Charles Wax be a leading scientist? The former president of the American Association of State Climatologists, who said, quote, first off, there isn't a consensus among scientists. Don't let anybody tell you there is, unquote. Would Stanley B. Goldenberg, a leading scientist? He's a meteorologist at the UN National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, who said, quote, it's a blatant lie put forth in the media that makes it seem there's only a fringe of scientists who don't buy into anthropogenic global warming, unquote. Is William Kennen, an Australian, a former head of the National Climate Centre within the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, would he be a leading scientist? He says, quote, climate science is not settled. 4 decades of observations highlight that computer models have exaggerated the influence of anthropogenic emissions of carbon dioxide. The Paris Agreement has been negotiated, he said, from faulty premises, unquote. And then there's the world-acclaimed Professor Richard Lindzen, the retired professor of meteorology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, world-renowned, who said, quote, what we will be leaving our grandchildren is not a planet damaged by industrial progress, but a record of unfathomable silliness, as well as a landscape degraded by rusting wind farms and decaying solar panels. And then there's Michael Shellenberger, who for 20 years was a world-renowned environmental activist. But he wrote a book 2 years ago, Apocalypse Now, Why Environmental Alarmism Hurts Us All. In it, he apologised for, quote, the climate scare we have created over the past 30 years. Of climate change, he said, it is not even our most serious environmental problem, unquote. Schellenberg further said, quote, once you realise how badly misinformed we have been, it's hard not to feel duped, unquote. Does that mean, if words are to retain their meaning, that we've been lied to? And as a result of those lies, and it's proven by Flannery's record, we are denying Australians what could be the cheapest energy in the world, which means denying economic growth and personal and corporate wealth based on the fact that, as the former environmental activist Michael Shellenberger has said, once you realise how badly misinformed we have been, it's hard not to feel duped, unquote. This may be our biggest crisis, the cost of alarmism and hysteria over climate change. We have to educate ourselves and then educate our kids before it's too late. Believe me, this also is part of the Great Reset.